Hiya, BookTube. This is just me having second thoughts, additional thoughts. After I put out the last Middlemarch Meditations video, I was browsing on Google. I came across a fantastic little journal article on JSTOR. I think I've tried to sell JSTOR before. They don't pay me anything, okay? So just so you know, but I really do like it as a resource. If you really like getting into particularly older books and you want to study them and you want the opinions of people who've spent years specializing, let's say in George Eliot, for example, or Victorian literature, JSTOR is a fantastic resource, and you do not have to get a paid subscription. You can if you want downloads, but if you just want to read articles online, JSTOR will let you sign up for an account, and you can read 99 articles per month, which is more than I could possibly myself. But it's plenty, and it means you can search, and if you happen to be reading something like Middlemarch or Dickens or one of the other great 19th century or early 20th century authors, it's really easy to find material. And yeah, some of it's a bit heavy going academically, some of it's better written, easier to understand, but you can usually find something where you can at least pull out a few thoughts that you hadn't had yourself before. It'll just take your mind in a new direction. And that's why I thought I'd record tonight, because I found something that I just thought was really fantastic for this opening of Middlemarch. And the article in question, it's all going to be down in the description box. So I'm just going to talk now so that you know, and so that this video doesn't get too long, right? So a gentleman named Ulrich Knoepflmacher, I hope I've got that pronunciation correct. The surname is spelled Knoepflmacher. He teaches at the Department of English at Princeton University, and he specializes in Victorian literature. Now, he's an author whose articles on George Eliot I had read before when I had to do university assignments on the Mill and the Floss. But what I love about him is that he is talking in this particular article, and the article is titled Middlemarch, an Avuncular View. Avuncular being meaning about the uncle. And what Knoepflmacher, I'm going to have a hard time with his name. Can I just call him UK? I mean, Ulrich Knoepflmacher, just that I don't, otherwise I'll just mess up his name all the time, and that seems awful. But what he's talking about is this interesting business about Arthur Brooke, who is Dorothea Brooke's and Celia Brooke's uncle, who is their guardian as well. Is that, do you remember when we were talking about the Prelude, and we were talking about how St. Teresa, when she was a very small girl, was prevented from going and seeking martyrdom when she was only 5 years old by her uncles. Her uncles very wisely, so it is said, they brought her back to her father's house, and this was good because she might have died a martyr's death as a very young girl, but that would have been a shame because she had much greater work to do for God when she became an adult, you know, if you look at it from a religious standpoint. Now, in a similar way, Arthur Brooke, Dorothea's uncle, is a person who has, well, he has incredible power for influence over her, for good or bad. And you can't help but imagine that the reason Eliot chose or constructed her story the way she has is that what she wants to show you is what happens when you haven't got an uncle who knows how to preserve you, how to guide you to do your best work. And that's what UK, there we go, we'll call him UK, he asserts that Arthur Brooke, you can't compare him to St. Teresa's uncles. Whereas St. Teresa's uncles, they saved a naive little girl from premature death, one that would have prevented her doing a greater work. Arthur Brooke, now, if he'd have been as wise, he would have prevented Dorothea because she was also pious and naive and very young, he would have prevented her from effectively a marriage to a dead man, Edward Casaubon. And I'm just going to quote here from page 56 in the article, because I think this is an interesting paragraph. It says, "It is Mr. Brooke's failure to provide for nourishment of a different sort which, I think, lends him his importance. As we shall soon see, George Eliot actually holds Mr. Brooke responsible for Dorothea's plight. Totally incapable of perceiving any pattern or design in human events, he fails to provide the hungry imagination of his older niece with that large vision of relations, which she, like the niece of, in other words, like St. Teresa, she so desperately needs and desires in order to live in an intelligible universe. And this leads on to something even broader, because I think George Eliot's life, and I hope I'm not making any presumptions by saying this, but I believe that she spent a lot of her life trying to figure out, how does a person who has abandoned religion, which she did, how do you then make meaning in your universe? And in the 19th century, this was something that people weren't really being given a choice. Science and the discoveries of sciences were putting people in a position where they knew they were going to have to reorder their universe and reorder their sense of what was meaningful. And that must have been a challenge to a lot of people, because, well, not everybody is up to that. I don't think I'm exaggerating. Not everybody is up to that job. Some people struggle with that. If they aren't given meaning as a package deal, it's all laid out. Here are the rules. Don't question it. Don't think. Some people, if you say, no, you're going to have to do it yourself. I'm so sorry. Here's everything. Here's all the knowledge we can give you. Now, find your own way. Some people find that very, very difficult. So Arthur Brooke, he's careless. He's careless in the way he deals with books. He's careless about the ideas that are contained in those books. He handles, we saw it, didn't we, in his opening conversation over dinner, when he talked about looking at Sir Humphrey Davies, and he looked at science and he realized, oh my God, it could extend to everything. And it's almost like he dropped it like a hot potato. The whole thing is, no, we don't go there, because that's just too much. So he takes ideas on, he handles them for a little bit, and then he kind of drops them again. And yet, even though he handles all the new ideas he comes into contact this way, very lightly, very sort of, oh, no, won't have that, no, won't have that, yet he feels qualified to make these pronouncements at the dinner table. And of course, some of them were very damaging. One of them in particular was he could make pronouncements about the intellectual capability of Dorothea. And that's interesting, given that he doesn't really engage with anything deeply enough intellectually, I think, for him to have that qualification. And so he has all this responsibility, but he hasn't got the ideas and the synthesis of principles. And that's a shame, because that's what Dorothea is looking for. You remember the quote from chapter 1 where Dorothea is thinking about what her ideal husband might be like. She's thinking about John Milton, heaven only knows. But she says, the really delightful marriage must be that where your husband was a sort of father and could teach you even Hebrew if you wished it. So I would say, no, that's probably not the best kind of husband necessarily, but you can see that what she's saying, what she's looking for in her life, is some kind of connection with an older, wiser person who honestly can teach her, who honestly knows what to teach her. And this is the reason why she falls for Edward Casaubon, because he just looks like a font of some knowledge. Now, he's got a lot of dead, unusable stuff, but she doesn't know that. She's too young to know that. And it's Arthur Brooke who should be able to distinguish whether Casaubon's ideas are worthwhile or no. I mean, what Casaubon seems to be doing is saying, let's just retreat into the past and let's see if we can restore something from centuries ago. And Arthur Brooke doesn't have the wisdom to go, that's not going to work. Because he himself really he doesn't so much hold on to the past as simply just stand still, almost frozen in fear. Can't take on all the new ideas, can't deal with them, doesn't want to go there. But he doesn't really you don't see him holding any strong principles about older ideas either. He literally is just standing there in limbo. Meanwhile, Dorothea needs help. She needs intellectual and spiritual guidance, and he simply isn't there to help. And yeah, the UK goes on to say, that Mr. Brooke exhibits a plight common to other 19th century minds. As a creature of that century, he is forced to fall back on the resourcefulness of his synthetic powers. That's a good word, synthetic powers, to find meanings and correspondences which were once guaranteed by religion, and now they're not. So it means you're on your own. You've got to figure it out yourself. And he just isn't up to that task. And let me go on here and say, Yeah, that was another thing that UK mentioned. He talked about that opening conversation at dinner where Mr. Brooke made such a big deal out of the fact that he'd met Humphrey Davy and William Wordsworth over lunch once. But UK thinks that Eliot did that deliberately, picked those two names deliberately, because Humphrey Davy was sort of the man of science, and William Wordsworth was sort of the man of the arts and literature. And I think Eliot was using these two men to kind of represent science in all its forms and the arts in all their forms, and sort of show that this is how Mr. Brooke deals with these big men and their big ideas. Well, he just says he had lunch with them. In other words, he gave them so little of his time and attention, the time it would take you to eat lunch. What is that? So it is very sad. I'm just saying that I was thinking too that if Mr. Brooke had been given the Puritan inclinations that Dorothea seems to have, then to be honest, I think he'd be just as a bit unhinged, unstable as Dorothea is right now. He would be, bound to a bunch of petty rules. Like her, she worries about riding a horse or wearing a necklace, which is just trivial in the grand scheme of the universe. But she doesn't know that, and to be honest, I don't think Mr. Brooke would be able to help her if she honestly asked him. But one more point I want to make before I close this video, and that's about Mr. Brooke and his books. Like he seems to love owning books and documents. He talks about how many he's got and how incredible and all the different ones he's read. But, he doesn't really know what he has. He can't put things in order. I mean, you saw him talk about, I don't know how to order my papers. Like, really? How hard is it? He knows his stuff as sort of on the outside. He knows he has a lot of stuff, but he doesn't know what's in all his books and documents, really. And in the same way, he doesn't know his niece as more than just the outer form of, that's a woman. Like the cover of a book, that's a Wordsworth. I don't know what that means, because I've never really opened the covers and studied them. In the same way, he's never really gotten to know his niece. But it made me think, wow, is Eliot implying, in a way, my speculation here, right? This is not Ulrich Knoepflmacher, this is me. Is Eliot implying that the way we engage with books can say something about the way we engage with people? Just throwing it out there. I mean, Arthur Brooke, he's read a lot. He seems to read quite quickly, but his understanding remains shallow. He likes to name drop all the book titles and authors, make him look like he's up on the latest thing, but it's obvious that his mind has not really received the ideas in those books, and he hasn't grown or become a different person because of his exposure to those books. All he can say is that he's read a lot of books. But you don't see that in the person. He just tells you, and I don't know, I'm saying that out there because I suppose what I'm saying is it's possible to do a lot of reading and not necessarily be a better person for it. That's a risky thing to say, but I'm just gonna throw it out. There's a suggestion. Think about this, everybody. There are so many books out there, and you can read anything you want. And I mean, heck, I'm reading an Agatha Christie that it's laughable for how sweet it is. But it probably won't change me, in any real way. Except I will have laughed a little bit, and that will cheer me up. But I think that's why when people talk about working to get quality in your reading, what they mean is not that you can't have fun, because you absolutely can, but that if you only read books that give you that sense of entertainment and fun purely, you probably won't change as a person, and that would be a shame because books have such a powerful ability to do that. But not every book, not absolutely every book, and so when people talk about canons and reading lists and so on, sometimes what they're trying to do is just bring together books that they feel have a dynamic effect on people, their ideas, and then the way they see and operate in the world, more than other books, And again, it's not like you can't read anything you want, because I mean, I'm telling you right now that I'm reading an Agatha Christie that, frankly, it wouldn't matter whether I read it or not. In terms of improving me or making any difference to me, no, No, apart from just offering me a bit of comfort read, nothing else. But I do think I do think it's a principle to take on board, because I'm sure that Eliot she would worry if she didn't think she was reading a good number of books that would make some difference to her. I think she would feel that a reader should aspire to make sure that some quality is going in, as well as all the fluff and stuff that we all love once in a while, because we're just, tired, bored, stuck on a plane, who knows, trying to babysit small children, and what can you concentrate on, So there's times, and then there's times, but I think what Eliot is, making an underlining point is that, please make sure that if you have books, they're books that you can really get something from. I think that's it. I'm going to shut up now, because I really didn't mean to make this video, but that article was so good. I just thought, if you want to just have a look at it, I think you'll find something that I haven't even mentioned here that will just be valuable if you're also, studying your way through Middlemarch here. Look, thanks so much for showing up for these videos, guys. Like, the viewing figures really make me go, wow, okay, I better keep going, definitely. So I will do. Give me a couple of days to prepare for another meditations, and I'll be back with you soon, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.